We're still waiting for Mr. McDonald. I don't see.
Yeah. I had lunch with Clinton too. Mhm. And George Bush.
I took
Look
a
at
picture
you.
with Obama.
Yeah.
He was here in Rockford, before he became president.
Well, he was here he was running for senator. Yeah. At
Yeah.
the clock tower. Yeah.
He was at the, Chuck Jefferson used to have a Mother's Day dinner,
Right. Yeah.
and he
I've
was
been
here
to-
for that too.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, I got to set the tape.
You got it? Nice.
Yep. After Kamala gets through with my man, he might
For the
actually.
sound bites, right? For the sound bites.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to say that. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Everybody.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hi, this is Dorothy.
Hi, Mrs. Red. Hope everybody's good this evening.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful day. I was inside all day, but
It is.
I'm inside all day every day, but
Oh,
Thanks for watching KRTV3.
The CBS Evening News is up to see you back here. It looks like we do have a quorum. If everybody's ready, we'll get started. We'll call this meeting to order. The Operation Administrative Committee. It's Wednesday, October 7th at 5:31 p.m. We'll start off with roll call. Mr. Salgado,
Present.
Mr. Arena,
Here.
Ms. Red,
present?
Mr. Hoffman,
Present.
Mr. Buchita,
Here.
Gene Crosby, Ms. Crosby,
Here.
and I'm also present. I know this answer, so I know we do have people signed up to speak publicly this evening, so I'm going to read this statement. This is the time we invite the public to address the operations and administrative committee with issues and concerns. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Personal attacks or inappropriate language of any sort will not be tolerated. We will allow a maximum of 5 speakers on a first come basis with the sign up at the signing of the meeting. Speakers may not address zoning matters which are pending before the ZBA or zoning committee or the county board. Personnel matters or pending or threatened litigation may not be addressed in open session. An individual may speak a maximum of 3 times per calendar year on the same topic. This prohibition shall include the repetition of the same topic in a statement on what is purported to be a different topic. After acknowledgement by the chair, please stand and say your name. Thank you. Mr. Thompson, do we have an order in which our public speakers are in?
Yes.
There is no specific order.
All right. I did hear one person say yes, but
Jim Hughes, I'm here.
Mr. Hughes, you said yes. Okay. Mr. Hughes, I know you're signed up for public speaking tonight, as is Mr. Phillips. And,
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Arena.
yeah, I had invited Mr. Phillips to be a participant in the meeting so that we could ask him questions. So I believe we just had Mr. Hughes and John Sweeney Sr., I believe, was going to speak also. I'm not sure if he's on the call. And there might be others, I don't know, those 2 individuals that I spoke with.
Excellent, Mr. Sweeney. If it's okay, we'll do Mr. Hughes first, and we'll go to Mr. Sweeney.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's my great pleasure again to take part in this conversation in regards to the executive form of government, which is going to be on our ballot to vote for. I started on the county board in about 1982 when we had one of our own representatives we chose to be part-time chairman. In those years, we seen that how important it was to go to a full-time chairman. And we did that and put a vote to the public, and we won that position for a full-time chairman's position. And Gene Quinn, another friend of mine, at that time became the chairman. After him was Chris Cohn. And then under my watch was Scott Christensen. So I spent a lot of years at the county board looking at county government, I have a lot of different feelings in regards to the executive form of government that's on the ballot. I don't see any reason why we should go to the executive form of government. The system that you have works quite well. I think it's important to note that I wouldn't hate to see that any county board members lose any of the power that they have to represent the taxpayers. When you have a disagreement and a chairman that is in disagreement with the majority of the county board, there was ways put in there that they could basically lessen his power. I was part of and was for Chris Cohn, which we then implemented some of those changes, basically rescinding some of her power. However, when Chairman Christensen came on, the county board sought to reinstate those powers. It's so important for you to keep the checks and balances of that. That's exactly what you did, and that's exactly what we did under Chris Cohn. It's a checks and balance to keep the executive branch basically in order. So caution anybody not to support the executive form of government. I think it's going to be a detriment. I don't think it's going to be an asset. And it ain't going to be an asset to our taxpayers. I thank you very much. And if any of you have any questions for me, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. You did a terrific job right at 3 minutes. I thank you very much. From there, we'll move to Mr. Sweeney. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rena. Thank you to the committee for allowing me to speak. I would suggest that the form of government that we currently have here in Winnebago County is better than an executive form of government. I think I could almost say I can prove it by stating that of 102 counties in the state of Illinois, only 2 have the executive form of government. So it must not be widely popular or, in my opinion, widely needed. I would also say that I served on the board with Jimmy Hughes, not as long as he was. I don't think I was age eligible when he started, just as a side note. But and I do remember what Mr. Hughes is referring to. And without, let me just state that Chris Cohn, Scott Christensen, Gene Quinn, I've known them all. They're all my friends. But there was a concern at one time that a department head may be at the risk of being dismissed for personality differences and not the ability for them to do their job. So we tweaked the rules stating that the county board chairperson could not fire any department head without a majority vote of the county board. And let me also say that that individual served another close to 20 years, I believe. And it also concerns me, currently now, the county board hires a professional executive. We were fortunate enough to have Steve Chapman for many, many years. And I can tell you, I suspect I might know what political party he's in, but I can tell you, I could not definitively tell you what political party he is in. I never asked. He never offered. That goes, by the way, with our representatives in the state's attorney's office to the county board. But one of the things that concerns me, if I believe is accurate, the executive position allows you to remove any appointments that are made by the county executive. And I argue it's tough enough now when appointments are put before the board to find good qualified people to serve on the boards. And I would say that if the chairperson alone could remove you from that position, you're more apt to be under the thumb of that county board chairman and make it much more political and give the county board chairman maybe more power than they should have as it relates to appointing individuals. And my understanding is the county executive is more statutorily responsible for presenting the budget and putting the numbers together. I'll go back to say that we were fortunate to have Steve Chapman, who, as a professional, did that for us on a nonpartisan basis. I think Jimmy Hughes can attest to his years on the county board, and I can on my years on the county board. There was very, very little partisan politics. And my concern is the executive forum could possibly lead us to more us and thems. So again, there's only 2 counties in the state of Illinois out of 102 that find it necessary to have an executive form of government. So I would argue that our form of government is more popular, more efficient, and more acceptable to the residents and the taxpayers in the state of Illinois. So with that, if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer any of them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sweeney. I appreciate that. Was there anybody else from the public signed up to speak at this portion? Mr. Thompson?
I thought there were 3, but I don't know if the other caller is on the line.
Okay, I don't see who else might be, so we'll move on then. Next item is resolution opposing the county executive form of government, and I so move. Can I have a second, please? Seconded by Mr. Arena, Mr. Hoffman. The item is now before us. We're open for discussion. Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think it's important that we all understand and that the community understands what this is all about. This position or this change would establish a county executive who essentially replaces our administrator. Currently, we have a professional in place, and we're relying on professional management of the day-to-day operation of the county. I've invited John Phillips from the Illinois City County Management Association to speak to us a little bit, because I'd like him to talk a little bit about the value of professional management. And again, I know these terms have been tossed around as if this is empowering a chairman. For the 2 counties that have this form of government, one of them has a county executive and has a chairman elected from within the board. The other has an executive and a speaker that's elected from within the board. Neither of those counties have administrators. So this truly is taking a professional position and replacing it with a politician. So with that being said, I'd like to invite Mr. Phillips to introduce himself. He presented at our ad hoc committee meeting. It's how I got to know him, and I think his perspective is valuable to this conversation. Mr. Phillips, could you share with us your opinion?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and hear your conversations tonight. little background on myself. I'm a senior advisor for the Illinois City County Management Association. I'm a retired city manager, was in Rock Island for 25 years as city manager there. So I had a great career in professional local government. It's important, and was very rewarding for me. And so I'm a volunteer to provide advice to other administrators, county administrators, city managers, administrators, and also work with some other jurisdictions like yours when there's discussions about the form of government or maybe the process for recruitment of an administrator. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think sounds like most of you folks are pretty well aware that under your current system, the board has, you are the policymakers. You set the direction. You have the vision for your county government. And the role of the professional administrator is help you be successful to accomplish your goals. And there are many counties in Illinois, and it's a growing number. I have assisted several actually in the last 5 to 10 years who are hiring their first administrator. Rock Island County was one of the urban counties that didn't have an administrator before. Now they do. And so even the urban counties in Illinois, as well as some of the rural counties like Joe Davies County, Henry County, Bureau County, some of these in kind of Northwest Illinois are more rural, but they also are very complex organizations, and they have found the value of the board working with a professional administrator. And one thing that I think is probably the most important thing that the administrator brings, and it was alluded to earlier, and that's a nonpartisanship. It's certainly they're educated. You're going to hire someone who is trained, educated, experienced in local government. It's a different animal than a lot of, like say, private sector organizations. Members of an association where you have great contacts with other resources, there's training resources available, best practices are shared. Those are very important. But one of the things I think that I find that's of most value is they can provide an unbiased and nonpartisan source of information for board members. So when you have your committee meetings, you have options available to you that have been studied. You have access to good information. So it helps you to make the decisions. It's not the administrator making the decisions. Their role is to help you so you have more background and have opportunity to have better information and making better decisions and for your constituents. And now the other thing that the professional will bring to the table is the ICMA, the International City County Management Association, and the state associations has a code of ethics. And with that code of ethics, they are required to demonstrate high standards of ethical conduct, refrain from all political activities that's prohibited. And there are many examples where people have violated that and have lost their connection with the professional association. They recognize it. One another tenet of the code is that administrators need to recognize they're not the policymakers. They implement policy. You are the policymakers. That is a key piece of information. They are open, dedicated to open and transparent government. You know, their personnel decisions are considered based on merit. You know, these are some of the fundamental things that are really important that distinguishes the professional from maybe anybody else who just take the job. And that's the value you get. I talked to one of our board members I know in Rock Island County after we implemented the administrator and they hired a professional. And I said, how's it going? And he says, well, I just feel like we've got so much better information now when we have to make a difficult decision because we have a professional who's done the research. He's not He's not biased. He's not part of one team versus the other team. So anyway, I think the county board form works well when you've got strong policymakers. That's the elected officials. That's you folks who are on the board. And you marry that with a professional administrator who can help execute that day to day. There are so many issues. It's so complex, and I don't need to tell you how much more complex it is even now. I've tuned in with area with state county administrators. They've been getting together regularly on Zoom calls, and they just dealing with COVID and all of the issues that relate to that. It was just astounding to me because I'm retired and I'm thinking, oh, I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of that. All these issues that they're facing to keep the public safe, to keep the staff safe, to comply with regulations that are coming down from the health departments. And then there's the money aspect of the financial projections on revenues that have to be considered, trying to make sure you're going to get money through the CARES Act and all this kind of stuff. I mean, and it's happening like now, and you have to be able to respond. Well, that's pretty difficult for a large county board if they're just trying to do this on their own. But with a county administrator who's a professional, who's really dedicated to try to bring everybody together and deal with that kind of complexity. So that was just another layer of what I'm talking about that really hit me hard once I started talking to other county administrators in Illinois about how difficult the job is. So I'll stop there, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
And I do have a couple for you, Mr. Phil. You stated that only 2 other counties have the executive form of government. Which 2 counties are those?
Will and Champaign counties are the 2.
And we currently have a township form. How many others are under township?
Well, most of them are, most of the rest of them are. There are some in Southern Illinois that are commission form because they didn't have townships. I think there's maybe 15, 17 counties down there in Southern Illinois who have a commission form. And the rest, the vast majority in Illinois are the county board form that you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Phillips while we have him here, or any comments in general? None? Butita.
Oh, all right. Thank you. I didn't have any questions for Mr. Phillips, but I did want to thank our other speakers, especially my old friend Jim Hughes, and I can call him old because I've known him a long time. So I'm glad he's still participating in our discussions. So I guess my view is that this seems like a redundant resolution. I brought before the board back, I believe in January, a resolution to put this referendum on the ballot. It was defeated by the majority of the board. So I think the majority of the board has already voiced their opinion that they're opposed to, at least they're opposed to the voters having a choice. So I assume they're opposed to the referendum. So it seems to me it's a redundant resolution. And I guess I'll probably vote no.
I think you. Mr. Arena, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess Mr. Butita makes a valid point. This was before the board once before. The reason this was came forward through a conversation that I had with Mr. Schultz. He and I thought this would be a good idea, and the purpose of it is so that we could have a public conversation now on the merits of this idea, a more substantive conversation that took place last time. So there's some things I want to make sure that all of us as board members are aware of and that the public is aware of. First being what we've already discussed, that this is a decision between professional management or political management. The person who runs for executive doesn't have to have any qualifications, whereas the professional that we hire is has years of experience, and if they don't succeed in their job, they can be replaced. If you elect somebody and they don't succeed in the job, you're stuck with them for 4 years. So that's a significant difference in the two forms of government that everyone needs to be aware of. We all participated in this search for our new administrator, and I think we were all pleased. It was a unanimous vote to select our current administrator because we saw how skilled and what talent he could bring to the job. We're jeopardizing that with this vote, and I think all of us need to keep that in mind. And then the other thing I want to make sure that I point out to all of us, there's this false perception in the community that we gutted the chairman's position. And that is absolutely not true. So for the record, I want us all to be aware of this. From our current code today, our chairman has these duties: appoint with the advice and consent of the county board those positions as required by the laws of the state, represent the county on all economic development opportunities, represent the county on all organizations which the county is a member, serve as our liaison between county elected officials and the county board, monitor the development of host fee allocations to be approved by the board, develop and promote the county's legislative agenda, assist in developing and monitoring the county's strategic plan, lead communication of county initiatives and accomplishments as approved by the board. These are significant responsibilities. In fact, when was this? On August 20th, Chairman Haney sent an email to all of our board recommending that we hire a full-time dedicated economic development professional. So our current chairman, who has expressed publicly that he has nothing to do, is assigned the responsibility of representing us on economic development, and also feels that that's a full-time position. So of that long list, that alone qualifies as full-time work. And then finally, to further validate these points, if I'm sure we were always shared with the court opinions in the cases that transpired over this issue. From the federal court decision, the court said, and I'm quoting, "Moreover, the parties do not dispute that Haney retains numerous responsibilities as chairman, including, for example, developing the county's legislative agenda along with the board, appointing positions as required by Illinois state law, and representing the county on economic development opportunities." So what's important for us to recognize here is it says the parties do not dispute. So Chairman Haney's own legal counsel and Chairman Haney himself did not dispute that there are significant responsibilities that remain with the position. So we have not gutted this job. This is a substantial job that should remain as it is. And with that in mind, we really need to discuss why do this. We're talking about making a change in the structure of our government 4 years from now, creating 4 years of uncertainty on what county government will look like. And then afterwards, there's going to be, if it should happen, a transition time between going between this form of government to a new form of government. It's going to stagnate our development as a county, and companies looking to come here are going to look at that uncertainty and think twice before doing so. So for those of you who might think that you want to vote against this resolution, you really have to ask, why do it? Why should we change our form of government? What is the benefit to this county for doing so? Thank you.
Rena, is Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you, Chairman. Can everybody hear me? I usually have some trouble with this. I just want to follow up with Mr. Rena to say, thank goodness we had an administrator to come in and pinch hit at the time, since our chairman decided to take off about 3 months, if I remember right. He wasn't in the office. He wasn't doing anything, collecting a paycheck. And if we didn't have the right personnel to do the administrator's job, we would have had no lead at all other than the county board, which I think the county board did an excellent job. But I am not set to change our government just because the chairman of this particular board had a hissy fit and tried to burn down the ship before he leaves. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Is there any other discussion? I have a couple comments too, but is there any, Mr. Webster?
Okay, yeah, thank you for letting me speak here, Chairman. A couple of things. One, what Joe Hoffman just said, I'm in 100% agreement with him there. And, you know, that's why Mr. Haney was so upset with us. But the fact of the matter is he's been off the reservation for a good period of time here now. And so, once again, I don't see a reason to change just because of that, because he's, you know, hurt, whatever. But the other thing I want to go back to there that Paul hit on, and I've said this a number of times over the years, is that as elected officials, we don't have to have any experience whatsoever at politics or government or anything. You don't have to have a fourth grade education to be a politician. You can throw your hat in a ring, and oftentimes it goes to the, it's a beauty contest. It goes to the prettiest faced or the most handsome guy or the most virile or athletic or whatever. You know, Mr. Personality may win that contest there. On the other hand, the administrator, and I tried to drive this home a number of times, the administrator, whoever that person, that man or woman may be, has to have a wealth of information on a number of subjects. They have to have some degrees, some education, and most importantly, I think for a county, particularly our size, has to have some experience, some governmental experience. And so it's not like someone who has been, you know, running a machine shop there and been the head person there or whatever, step into government. No, they're two totally different things. And so that's why it is so very important that we do have a good administrator. And going back to Steve Chapman, I'll tell you what, he's been an unsung hero to the county for many years now. I've been around here longer than most. And over the years, he has done such a good job and always been there, so reliable that it's almost as though he's been just kind of taken for granted. We know, oh, Steve can do that. Call Steve. You want to know about how something happened or what department takes care of this? Call Steve. He's got it right in the top of his head. And so the man has done just a wonderful job for us all these years. And after the debacle there we had with the administrator leaving on us, we were wringing our hands what to do. And I made one call, and that was to Steve Chapman. Steve, this is Jim. Hey, how you doing? I hadn't talked to him for a couple of years. I said, Steve, we're in a bind here. I said, would you think about coming back out of retirement? Help us out. We need you. Without hesitation, he said, yeah, I'll do that. And that's what's carried the day for us until Pat Thompson came along. And thank God, I think we got somebody that's going to follow in Steve's mold. And that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Is there anybody else that has discussion on this? Like I said, I do have a couple of things I'd like to mention right quick. And that's the fact that Mr. Thompson was hired unanimously. Matter of fact, he exceeded what we were looking for in salary range, but we agreed to Mr. Thompson unanimously because we saw the value of Mr. Thompson. He's got proven success in several other counties in different states. I think I have very, very high expectations for Mr. Thompson. I like the fact that we have somebody that's not going to change the political. This is what we've heard several times tonight as well. That you know, in 2022, all of us are up for re-election. If none of us come back, at least Mr. Thompson will be there to help with continue what we've been trying to do and how things have been going in day operations. I think is a very important thing for the administrator to do. The second item I kind of wanted to hit on, I'm sure you guys have had several questions as well. Somebody sent me a picture of the question on the ballot, which reads, shall the County of Winnebago adopt the executive form of government and elect not to become a home rule unit? So the questions that I've been getting was people are asking, should I vote yes on this so we don't become a home rule unit? And so the distinction there, I think is very well written. I think it was very sneaky and well done. But when it says elect not to become home rule unit, that's driving people to vote yes. So I do think it's important for us to bring this in front of us once again to explain that item as well, that however you vote on this will not change the fact that we're going to have home rule or not have home rule. That's not on the ballot. Simply the executive form of government is on the ballot. So I wanted to air that out as well, that this is not a vote for home rule. This is a vote for the form of government that we have. And I see Mr. Kelly, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. It's going to be on the ballot. The voters will decide, and we'll have to live with it. And there will be, I'm sure, a great deal of conversation about it.
I agree, Mr. Kelly. Thank you very much. Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Chairman. As Mr. Kelly says, it'll be on the ballot. But like you said, the wording in the ballot doesn't reflect the job. So there's truth and then there's lies. And so far, I'm hearing a lot of lies about what the government looks like. So we need to get the truth out there. Thank you. And thank you, Keith, for following up on that.
Yes, sir. Happy to do it. State's Attorney Height Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify if this passes, it would not go into effect until 2024. If the sitting county board or the voters decided that they wanted to go back to the current form of government, they wouldn't be able to get that on the ballot until 2028. And then in 2028, if they decided that they wanted to return to the current form of government, that wouldn't go into effect until 2032. So I just wanted to be clear on how long you would have if the voters choose to change the form of government. And I don't think that was discussed. So I just wanted to share that with all of you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent point, State's Attorney Ross. Thank you very much. That's a terrific point. Mr. Kelly, on a follow-up.
Yeah, again, it's an election and we'll see how the voters decide. And this will be part of the conversation.
Sure, and I agree with that. But I've either had 8 or 9 phone calls about this very question. And so I think us having a public discussion on it could help educate some voters to help give them some clarity on what this means to vote yes or no. So I do see value in this, and I'm very grateful that we're having this discussion. Is there any other discussion on this matter? Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to add, Bert Girl had wanted to participate in this committee meeting today, but he contacted me beforehand to let me know he was tied up at work, but he did want me to express to the committee his support for the resolution. So as a candidate for chairman, he supports staying with the form of government that we currently have, and he wanted that to be known. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arena. Is there any other discussion or questions? Ms. Crosby. Oh, okay. Sorry, looked like you had your hand up. So seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor of the resolution opposing the executive form of government signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
No.
Ms. Crosby and Mr. Pepita are opposed. The motion passed.
I'm always in the minority.
Always in the minority. So Ms. Crosby, Mr. Pepita, there are only 2 opposed. We'll cast a yes vote for everyone else present. We'll move on. Mr. Webster, you have a comment?
Yeah, I had to find my mute button. Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Phillips for taking the time to speak to us. I appreciate when he came and spoke to us several months ago. Very informative, and he hit the nail on the head on the subject matter. So thank you, Mr. Phillips, and I'm glad to see you're enjoying your retirement.
Thank you. I'm glad to do it.
Yes, thank you very much for being willing to be with us this evening and answering questions. Thank you very much. The next item before us is resolution on county clerk hours 2020, and I so move. Can I have a second? Second by Ms. Crosby and Mr. Hoffman. Items before us. On my phone, I don't have the resolution in front of me. Mr. Thompson, are you able to speak to this?
I think this just speaks to the fact that the clerk's office is going to be open on election day and that their main focus will be election-related work and no other work.
Excellent. Mr. Kurlinkus.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is the annual, and I believe, Mr. McDonald, you were the one that initially wanted this passed a couple of years ago. This is the one that actually closes the clerk's office for everything but election duties on election day, on November 3rd.
Thank you for that reminder, Mr. Kurlinkus. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed to the resolution? Seeing none, all members present. Is there any other matters for this operations committee this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if this is Dorothy Red. I'm not sure if this is the correct committee.
What's
But I think that somehow we need to meet with the health department. And not sure exactly what needs to be done, but some of the laws are not being enforced. Would this be the right committee for that?
I would say it's a public forum that you could speak your opinion, absolutely.
Okay, I think we need to have Dr. Martell come and tell us what's going on and the problems that they are having.
Okay.
Can you speak with her and see if you can get her on the agenda, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that for the next operations. I know that unfortunately COVID seems to be polarized. There's very strong opinions on either side of it. And I very much think it's worthy of a public discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other matters to come before the committee this evening? See none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Salgado, seconded by Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Reno. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? I thank everybody for their time this evening.